Welcome, friends. Welcome back to the kitchen. Today we're making something just out of the back of my mind. No recipe, just a little bit of me remembering something that happened 26 years ago and trying to recreate that because I now have fond memories of it. And I sort of remember the basics of what was in this dish, but I'm going to change the flavoring that more suits me as a 57-year-old man. Okay, so here's the story. I'm 21. I get a job. I'm at university taking forestry. I get a job working for a group from Manitoba that has a group of Mennonite farm kids. And I say kids, but they were all the same age as me. They were all kind of in their late teens, early 20s. And they came to Northern Ontario to plant trees, and I was hired along with a couple of other forestry students in order to manage the tree plant. This, or a version of this, was cooked 3 to 4 nights a week. So we're living in a bush camp, sleeping in a tent. They've got a trailer brought in with a kitchen, but the dining hall is just a giant tent. And there were always casseroles on the menu. They brought in some Mennonite church ladies to cook for everybody, and the food was wonderful. Extremely plain, lots of casseroles. I thought it was wonderful. Completely different experience than I had the next summer when I was checking for a tree plant camp that was vegan hippies. That was a different experience, equally good. Anyway, so this casserole was every other night or every third night we had this, always there. And by the end of the summer, I was completely tired of it, never wanted it again, haven't thought about it in 26 years. They did it in a Italian seasoning type deal. Definitely an Italian seasoning. I'm going to do a little more Tex-Mex. Okay, so I've got a little bit of oil heated up in this frying pan, and I've got some ground beef. Pan wasn't quite hot enough, but it'll be fine. So we want to start to brown that beef and just break it down. Okay, the meat is browning nicely. This is where I'm going to add in a couple of chopped jalapeno chilies. Definitely not in the recipe I ate that summer. They would put in green pepper or red bell pepper. A lot of what we ate was kind of how I eat today. What was on sale? They would always come back with the cheapest ingredients because they were trying to feed a lot of hungry 20-year-olds for the cheapest amount possible. And so it was ever changing. Sometimes it was ground beef and sometimes it was ground pork, but always kind of with that Italian seasoning in mind. And you know, when I say Italian seasoning, I mean you buy the little container of Italian seasoning. No onions. There was one of the guys on the crew who would, walk past me at the dinner table in the tent and kind of poke me as he walked by and go, "Did you notice there's no onions? There's still no onions. They're not cooking with onions." Nothing we ate that summer had onions in it. So I'm not going to put onions in. But it would be fantastic with a couple of diced onions in here. That would really sort of enhance the flavor, I think. But for this time, I'm not going to put onions in. I've got some of our Tex-Mex taco seasoning. I'm going to put that in at this point. Continue to stir and brown the meat. This is where we get to the tomato component. So this is a can of crushed tomato pulp and a can of Rotel, which is tomatoes and chopped chilies, and a can of tomato paste. I say this a lot, and I really do mean it. Don't overthink it. Really, don't overthink it. What I've done is added a lot of tomato flavor to the ground beef, extending it, making it into a sauce. And I got to tell you, on the nights when this didn't arrive as a casserole, this meat concoction was in a giant pot beside a bunch of hamburger buns. And it tasted absolutely amazing as some kind of a loose meat sandwich, sloppy Joe type sandwich. Every night, some portion of this would end up on the dinner table. Now you want to stir this together and cook it down for maybe, if you've got 20 minutes or half an hour, just to kind of bring the flavors together. Right, and if it seems too thick, thin it out a little bit. Add a little bit of water. Add a little splash of beer or white wine or something like that. Cook. It's your kitchen. Cook. Okay, so I've got a pot of salted boiling water here, and I've got some pasta noodles. I've got elbows and shells, because I had a part bag of each in the cupboard. Don't be too precious about it. They used any number of combination of different types of pasta noodles in this, right down to egg noodles. Egg noodles were probably my favorite with this, but I didn't have any, so I'm just going with what I've got. Boil them according to the package directions. Okay, so this goes in the oven for half an hour. I'm not gonna cook the pasta down too much. Get this into our casserole. Okay. While the pasta's still hot, I'm going to scoop in some sour cream. Maybe about half a tub. I ask a lot of questions, and I'm always in the kitchen, and so I was no different, back then when I was younger. I asked about everything that was being made. So I've got the sour cream in, and now we're going to add in a block of cream cheese. And I'm going to stir this together. Get the pasta coated with the sour cream and the cream cheese. The cream cheese should melt a little bit based on the heat remaining in the pasta. There's still some lumps of cream cheese in the bottom here. It's not fully melting in, but I don't think that's a problem. So I'm going to get a good layer of pasta here. And we're going to pour the meat over top. Get a nice layer of meat on top. And then some shredded cheese. This is cheddar. I'm going to put on a couple of different kinds of cheeses. They only ever put on one kind of cheese. They put on what I'm going to put on next, which is pizza mozzarella. You know, that harder ball of mozzarella? Because it melts really well. And it's great because it melts really well. So I'd put on 2 or 3 different kinds of cheeses because there's always a nice change in flavor. They melt differently. I like contrasts. I would probably, if this comes out and works out for me and I like it, if I was to make it again, I'd probably put some beans in it too, because I think beans would go really well with this combination. Cut down on some of the beef, save some of your cost, and substitute it with some beans. So I've got the oven 350. It's about a half an hour. You could cover this first with tin foil for about 25 minutes and then peel the tin foil off. I'm just going to stick it in and let it go.
Hey, Glenn.
Hey, Jules.
Hey, friends. That's very tomatoey smelling. It looks like a lasagna, but you never know what you're making.
It is, well, I mean, no. Yeah, no.
It's a square and it smells like tomatoes, so I went with lasagna.
Yeah. It's square. It smells like tomatoes.
Well, it doesn't cut like lasagna.
No. It's got pasta. It's got...
Oh, is it like spaghetti?
It's like that.
Okay. That works. It looks like it's got all the things you want. Mm-hmm. Some cheese, some tomatoes.
Oh, that looks great.
Some was it macaronis in there?
There's macaronis and shells because we didn't have enough of either. Yeah, I think a spoon's probably a better idea.
Mm-hmm. I was having a hard time with the fork.
Okay. Spoon's coming up.
Ooh, hot.
Spoon.
Yeah, all the classic flavors.
Okay, so that cheese layer,
It's crunchy on the top. Be careful. It'll stick to the top of your mouth.
so the sour cream and the cream cheese have kind of
Oh, wow.
melded together with the pasta, and then the layer of meat on top. Mm-hmm. And then the cheese on top is browned really nicely. And instead of doing Italian flavors, I did Rotel and,
Glenn loves a good Rotel.
and jalapenos.
Let's not kid anyone. Glenn likes the Rotel flavor.
Yeah, I do.
So, but again, what flavors do you like?
You could do Italian. You could do what I did. But there are so many different flavors that you could put in this. Harissa would work really well, I think. Yeah. Switch up the cheeses, switch up the pastas, but it's essentially
Or just throw whatever you've got in the house and empty the bag, and then empty the other one.
exactly. And like I said earlier, cut the meat half and half with some beans, or just straight up throw some beans in with the meat. This is a method, it's an idea, it's not a recipe. Don't stress on what you're doing here. It's just dinner, and it's great. It's
Perfect.
comfort. Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon.